Awesome. Welcome, everybody. State of the Snowpack January. Yeah, Kootenays. Before we begin, just a little bit of housekeeping. Two things. Firstly, I'd like to let you know this is streaming on several platforms. So we're streaming live on the State of the Snowpack Instagram account. We're also streaming live on Kootenay Backcountry Guides Facebook Live, as well as their Instagram Live. So I heard last time a few people got kicked off, and if for some reason that happens to you or there's an issue with one of them, you can jump to any of those other channels. As well, there'll also be a premium copy of this video that'll be uploaded to our new website, www.stateofthesnowpack.com, in about 2 days' time. So you'll be able to watch it there as well. If you know someone who doesn't have Instagram or can't watch live for some reason, you can check it out there. Secondly, we really encourage you guys to ask questions. We'll be monitoring the feeds and the comments on these live videos. So if you can post your comments or questions in the feed, then we'll be able to answer your questions in as live a time as possible. Awesome. So with that said, I will start as I started last time, which is that every winter tells a narrative. Every time it snows or the wind blows or the sun beats down, that's a different chapter in the story of our winter. And this is the story of our snowpack. And it's what we bring to you each month here live at State of the Snowpack. Because understanding that narrative is really key in playing safe in the backcountry. My name is Morgan Dinsdale. I'm a local guide, avalanche educator, and a woman who just loves to ski in the backcountry. And this is my event that I've created. I'm the director, producer, but trust me, behind me are a lot of people making this come together. The State of the Snowpack is a passion project of mine because I truly believe these are community conversations that will save lives in the backcountry. By sharing as local as it gets snowpack analysis from local guides and avalanche forecasters who are making it digestible in an easy and simple way, you'll be able to make your most informed decisions in our backcountry every single day. I also believe that these conversations will decrease incidents, rescues, and casualties in the backcountry. So please, please, please share with everyone you know playing in our backcountry. Furthermore, I'm really stoked to share with you today that my vision for this project has expanded. And my goal is now to bring the State of the Snowpack to each of the mountain communities of the Canadian West. Whistler, Revelstoke, Fernie, Canmore, Smithers, Golden. I want to bring it to each of your towns. With that said, I am seeking brand sponsorship from major ski brands in the backcountry and ski industry. Arc'teryx, BCA, Mammut, I'm talking to you. And furthermore, I've created a GoFundMe page that allows you guys, the public, to contribute to our cause. I have put a link to it on our website, and this way we can crowdsource the money to expand it into these communities, because my goal is to ultimately keep this free forever. I want this information to be shared to you for free without any worry that there's a reason why it'll be cut off to you. So helping us fund this will allow me to pay the filmers, it'll help me pay the speakers, and it'll help me pay organizers in these towns who have donated so much time. Like in the Kootenays right now, sitting here, I've got Judson Wright, our speaker this evening, and our main partner here in Nelson is Kootenay Backcountry Guides. I've also got Ryan Flett, local adventure photographer, filmer, and coach, who's donated all of his time completely for free. And I think it's really important that going forward in these communities, I'm able to give back to these people who are already giving so much of their time and expertise. So tonight, without further ado, we bring you round 2 of State of the Snowpack Kootenays with Judson Wright. He's an ACMG guide. He is an avalanche educator, and he's the owner and lead guide of Kootenay Backcountry Guides, which he started in 2016 with the vision of bringing greater safety to our backcountry here in Nelson and the Kootenays. He's also a father and a husband, and really what it comes down to is him coming home every day and you guys coming home every day. We've also got today Michael Wigley, happens to be my main backcountry partner and also my partner in life, who's going to be presenting on some information and knowledge he's gained from his time being involved in backcountry incidents and accidents, and how that's shaped what he carries in his backpack. Because I'm not sure if but if you're like me, I love a good backpack breakdown, and these few things to keep in your backpack, whether just you personally or within your group that you tour with, could really make the difference when you encounter some sort of event, not just an avalanche, but some sort of injury in the backcountry. And And with that said, I'd like to just thank all of you guys for tuning in, for sharing this, and for being a part of this project. And without further ado, I give you Judson Wright. And I give you this.
All right. Oh. I thought you were falling. Okay, right on. Thanks, Morgan. Thanks for the amazing introduction. Thanks to everybody for tuning in to episode 2 here. I'm super excited for this. I'm mostly really excited because the conditions are good. The last time I was up here, it was a pretty sad state of affairs, and right now there's been a lot of great riding going on and lots to talk about in the Snowpack. So we're going to dive right into the Snowpack. Episode 2 topics for the night tonight. We are going to cover the current conditions that are going on. We're going to review the avalanche bulletin for January 5th. We're going to talk about the Snowpack history, what's been going on in our season. We are going to talk about the Snowpack depths that we're seeing throughout the region, noticeable layers, profiles. So we've got a profile from Acidophilus, we have a profile from the Roslyn Range, and then Avalanche and Hummingbird Pass, and Buzz's Ridge Avalanche as well, and cover some avalanches on multiples on Mount Plumin. So here's a photo of the team that's supporting me through this. Morgan, Michael, and Ryan, thank you, all of you, for your dedication to making this happen, because it's all about backcountry safety. And the volunteer hours that have gone into this project are massive, and it's only going to continue. So I'm the lead guide of Kootenay Backcountry Guides. I started Kootenay Backcountry Guides in 2016. I'm an ACMG ski guide and provider of Avalanche Canada courses. My main goal is to help people get beyond the boundaries and build confidence so you can go further and be safer. Ultimately, I just want to make the backcountry a safer place overall. We do AST courses along with online learning, and this year that's been a major change for us. We've added online learning, so there's no more classrooms, so we don't have to pack people into classes. And what we've done with our courses is we've added additional field days, so now everyone with the AST1 is getting 2 full field days along with 6 hours of online training, not on Zoom. So you do not have to sit in a Zoom meeting with our classes for 6 to 8 hours. You can do our online courses at your own pace whenever you want, sitting on your couch. Our AST2 is now 4 full field days, and we just pulled off our first ones of the year, and it was absolutely awesome to have those extra days. They're so valuable. And we do full field day managing avalanche terrain courses at Kootenay Pass and Whitewater, companion rescue skills courses as well. We have a couple places in one this weekend. And Backcountry 101, Ski Touring 101 for newbies. You new out there, we can show you the ropes with Ski Touring and Splitboarding 101. And new to this year, and a course I'm super excited about, is our Snow Science 101. You see what you like out here? We have a full 1-day course to teach you how to get relevant snowpack observations on your day and not waste your time digging, actually going and getting relevant info for your day. And our first course of the year is being taught by Joel McBurney, who's a local guide and was my mentor when I went through the guiding process. And I'm convinced that this course is going to bring incredible value to people. First one is going on this weekend it's on Saturday or Sunday. I think it's on the Sunday. So thank you to our community. I just want to thank everyone in our backcountry ski community for making everything amazing this year. I'm so happy that people have been signing up to our courses and been out there taking safety seriously. It's a major step up. So many people are taking courses. That's the new thing, and we're servicing locals this year. So we really are relying on locals to keep our businesses going. And you know what? People are supporting us, and I am so happy for that. All of my guides are incredibly grateful to the community for your support of us, and we are going to continue to help to support the local community by providing you valuable information, by continuing to contribute to as much info as we can to make this community stronger. Ski resorts are changing. More than ever, people are starting to go out in the backcountry. It's more and more about going into the backcountry than being at the ski resort. There's record sales going on of ski touring and splitboarding equipment. The pandemic has sort of changed everything, and people just want to be outdoors with tons of space. Disclaimer on this presentation, my lawyers make me do this. No, just kidding, I can't afford one. But yes, the information I present are my own observations to the best of my ability. This presentation does not replace any actual avalanche training. Sign up to one of our courses this winter. Let us show you the ropes. What you do with the information we present here is your responsibility to use it responsibly. So without further ado, the current state of the snowpack is a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and some more of that, and then some more of that, and that, and finally this and that. Epic shots. Thanks everybody from Instagram. We kind of rolled around and got some amazing local shots from incredible photographers that have been out in the last little bit here. And basically, this is what the riding is like here right now. So the current state is fat pow for everyone. But baby, it's complicated. So it is complicated out there. And we're going to dive right into what's going on. Tons of layers to talk about. So quick little look at the whitewater snow report from this morning. We can see that things are majorly different from the last time I was here when there was probably an 80 centimeter base, and now there's 194 centimeters. And after tonight, I'm sure there's going to be a 2-meter party going on right now. So in lieu of that, I am gonna crack a beer because I'm sure that it's 2 meters somewhere. So thank you Backroads Brewery for the El Dorado Golden Ale. Cheers, Ryan. Yes, and cheers everybody out there. I'm so happy that we're out there skiing and not worrying about crust and other things. It's just great. So yeah, more snow on the way in the next 3 days. Total snowfall of the year, 340 centimeters. We've had about 70 centimeters of snow in the last 7 days. That's changed everything out there. The Avalanche Canada Bulletin right now, the danger ratings are considerable throughout the region, and they're saying new snow is forecast to continue to accumulate over the next 3 days, gradually increasing the load. Sitting above buried persistent weak layers. Persistent slab avalanches are best managed by choosing conservative terrain. The Avalanche Canada Bulletin, what they're talking about is storm slabs that are on all elevations, all slopes, likely up to size 2.5. And they remain sensitive to human triggers. So there have been a few human triggers going on out there with storm slabs. And avalanche problem number 2 is our persistent slabs, which is weak surface or facets sit above a melt freeze crust that's 70 to 100 centimeters deep. The layers being stressed as new snow slowly but steadily piles up. And the incremental load, so this means it's slowly adding up. It means that it's not rapidly stressing it, so it's just incrementally kind of touching it. We're currently seeing only sporadic avalanches running on these deeper layers, but they are on all slopes, all elevations, and they're possible up to size 3. Yeah, up to size 3, they're saying there. And the avalanche summary, we're going to get into that a little bit deeper, but there's been remotely triggered avalanches, size 2 persistent slab in Rossland, on Sunday, and the details on the min reports are in there. We're going to dig into those in a bit. Sporadic reports of the persistent slab avalanches have been popping up, including a natural size 3 near Whitewater on Sunday. So there was a big windstorm that went on Saturday night, and then a whole bunch of snow followed that windstorm, and there was an avalanche cycle that went on. We'll get into that. And so there is a lot of uncertainty around this layer that we're going to get into. The weather, the snowpack, we're going to talk more in depth. We don't need Avalanche Canada for that. And the weather we're talking about looks like 5 to 10 centimeters a day for the next few days, remaining cold. And that is awesome. I love it. The confidence they're saying is moderate. So they do have uncertainty on how that buried persistent weak layer will react with the forecast storm coming in. So let's dive into the snowpack history going on. This is the snow pillow at Redfish Creek, and it's at 2,100 meters. And this just shows the water equivalency. So this is how much water is in the snowpack, but it does roughly translate to snowpack depths and basically the overall strength of the snowpack. And we are this blue line, so you can see there's a few lines. One of them is kind of the average line or the median. Then we have the green line is last year, and we could see last year, I remember being here in January, it was kind of mid-January when I did this talk, and we were up here where we were seeing actual last year, we were at record levels of snowpack all the way through until March, where it kind of started to trail off. But where we are with this blue line, if anyone can't see, we're actually exactly where we were at this point last year before it started hammering for those month and a half that it happened on us last year, and I hope that happens again. But we are on track. And if we go back, the last time I was here in kind of my sad state I was in at the beginning of December was this, when this blue line was all the way down at the bottom, and we were looking on the low end of the amount of snow that was going on. And then as soon as I left in sort of right before Christmas, it started dumping, and that's where this line goes up. And then it was kind of dry for a bit-ish over Christmas, and then we got another storm adding it up over New Year's. So snowpack depths throughout the region. This is actually around Whitewater behind Hummingbird Pass, where we had about a 2-meter snowpack, and this was on the weekend. This was my AST2. There's Cliff and Lori digging a pit. Hi, hopefully you're on here. Yeah, here Whitewater, we're about 190 to 200. And the further north you go, the deeper the snowpack is. Believe it or not, areas of the Monashees around Revelstoke are sitting at 300 centimeters. As you go south, it tends to get a little bit less. So Kootenay Pass and the Boningtons are about 150 to 175 centimeters. And we measure all these right at tree line. And then when you go to the Roslyn Range, it's 130 to 150 centimeters. We'll get into the issues going on in the Roslyn Range. But we're sitting at a depth where the coverage is good now that we can actually go and ski. And yes, there still is the odd, I'm seeing the odd open creek, the odd rock and stick, but for the most part, things are way more filled in. So less and less hazard underneath that snow for us. Our notable layers and how the snowpack is kind of stacked up. At the bottom, we've got these November facets and crusts, and we'll be talking about those in a little bit. And then we've got the December 8th rain crust. Right above that layer is the December 13th surface hoar, and those two layers are pretty much the same layer because they're really within 5 centimeters of one another in most places. And this is our persistent slab layer that we're talking about. And then we've got the December 21st rain crust as well, and the December 25th surface hoar, and the 29th surface hoar, and then we've got our present storm and wind slab layers that are going on. And so that's kind of that load that's sitting on these two surface hoar layers of December 29th and December 25th. So our storm and avalanche cycles, I just talked a little bit about this, but we had two pretty big storms that changed everything in terms of, we were sitting at that low snowpack, and then we had a good storm right over December 21st, 22nd, and here's a photo from Jalapeno Vision, or Jalapeno Vision, Jeremy there with the, is he on here? Hey. Yeah, thanks so much for this photo. We're really loving your photos out there. You're doing an amazing job out in the backcountry of getting great shots. Thanks so much for all you do. And here's a really cool shot of Evening Ridge. This is an avalanche on December 21st. Nasty spot right here. This is what we call ecstasy, and this is a really, really troublesome feature here. Pretty decent avalanche that released on one of those persistent weak layers, probably December 8th or 13th, right in this pocket here. And so over this period, there was a decent storm that came in as rain, and then it finished as snow, and it rained up to about 1,800 meters. Above it, it was all snow, and we got 30, 40 centimeters-ish in places in that storm. But it produced a pretty decent avalanche cycle with many avalanches releasing on this persistent weak layer, the December 8th and 13th layer, and several avalanches up to size 3 were reported going on during that cycle. So we were kind of dancing around out there and avoiding things during this, and that's when the skiing just started to get good. And then we had this storm over New Year's with another avalanche cycle. So we call this the New Year's storm that's pretty much been going on since around the 29th. It's been snowing a little bit here and there, and then we just got hit a couple of days ago with that 40 centimeters that came in. But it caused another cycle that was failing mostly in storm snow from strong winds and heavy loads. Several avalanches failed on the December 8th and 13th layer, mostly in the Roslyn and Boningtons, but there were some potential persistent slab ones around Whitewater as well. The busiest day for activity was Saturday and Sunday, with the largest being reported size 2.5 to 3. One was suspected to have run on a reloaded bed surface, so that means that that layer had already slid during the December 21st cycle. It snowed, reloaded that bed surface, and then avalanched again. And here's a shot of an avalanche that came down out of First Choice on, I believe that would be January 3rd. So it probably happened on the night of January 2nd during those winds. And it's a pretty decent slide, quite long, quite large. And for those of you who have skied here quite often, you would know that First Choice, that pocket is a feature that tends to go quite often. It avalanches out of either of these corners as people are exiting First Choice. So we'll talk a little bit about each layer now. So the November crust and facet sandwiches, yum, not so much. No, gross. That is grossness going on. This crust at the bottom, lots of facets, lots of gross crust that I don't like to see. So from the ground up to the bottom, this layer goes from the base of the snowpack up to the December 8th layer, and it's all basically this real sugary faceted grains, and there's crusts intermixed within it. And I'm just lumping those in as the November crust. There was 3 or 4 of them, and they're not all apparent anymore because now they're squished down to the bottom. And the whole bottom 40 to 60 centimeters of the snowpack is weak and faceted with various crust sandwiches in between. It's gross when you get down there and have a look at it. It's worse in the Roslyn range. I've heard it might be a little bit worse in the Boningtons as well. It's not good at Whitewater or elsewhere. On many tests done throughout the region, these layers are indicating they're not fully healed yet. So when you get rid of that rain crust on the 8th, the whole snowpack sometimes falls apart. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up here as well. So then we get into December 8th and 13th layers. This is a prominent rain crust. So the December 8th is a prominent rain crust down 80 to 100 in Roslyn, and it's up to 150 centimeters below the surface in the Nelson range. 2 to 5 centimeters above the rain crust is the December 13th surface hoar. There seems to be more surface hoar associated with this layer around Whitewater, the Boningtons, and the Roslyn Range. I've been digging quite a bit at Kootenay Pass, and the surface hoar is there, but it's a little bit spottier and hard to find. I also think it got rained on a little bit. I was there around that time, and there was a rain event that did hit that surface hoar there, but I'm not discounting it. So underneath the 8th layer sits those weak layer of facets, and they're 2 to 4 millimeters in size. So that is those November facets that are sitting under the crust, and they're huge. And I feel like in a little bit, if it carries on like this, it might start to turn into depth hoar down there. Basically, the December 8th and 13th, they're not to be fully trusted yet. Here's a video that Tim Ripple took of these layers. This is on December 23rd. So things have changed since then, but just to give you an idea of how sketchy it was on that layer just after this storm, here's a legendary mountain guide, Tim Ripple, doing a compression test. And that's not what you want to see. See, he shakes his head. He's like, no, he didn't like seeing that. And we're not seeing it quite that bad. I'd say like 4 or 5 days ago, we were getting results like that. Haven't quite seen it this bad in the last few days, but at the same time, the second you kind of cut through that December 8th layer, it just falls apart in a lot of places, and that's the bottom of the snowpack, and Tim there is showing you that crust. So one thing, just going back to this with it, what I am finding is that in a lot of places is that the snow seems to be bonded to the December 8th rain crust. So that's a good thing. But just up above it, remember, is that surface hoar. So it's either layer that could go, and they're right beside one another. So then we have the December 21st rain crust. This is a prominent crust. It's very prominent. It's anywhere from 1 to 3 centimeters thick. It's apparent in the snowpack to approximately 1,800 meters. In some places it's higher, in some places it's lower, but the entire storm really came as snow above 1,800 meters in most places, and I haven't found it at 1,900. So there are facets below this crust in some places as well. I don't know of any avalanches that have been reported on this crust yet. So it seems to be not a real problem at this point. That might be because also it's at lower elevations, right? And also it's quite thick. But where we were testing it, the snow is bonded to that crust. Then we have the December 25th and 29th surface hoar. These layers are spotty throughout the region, making them hard to find. They're approximately 50 to 80 centimeters deep. So with all the new snow and the wind that's going on out there, that's what it's sitting on, is these 2 surface hoar layers. I tried really hard on the weekend. I dug a whole bunch of pits with my AST2 course. I only found these layers a couple of times, but other people are reporting them. They are there. They're just not that widespread layer. So you might not find it in one valley, and then you move over to the next, and there's that surface hoar, and then you're going to run into a problem. They're about 50 to 80 deep. Another 10 to 20 tonight. They might be getting up to 60 to 100 centimeters deep in some places. With all the recent snow and wind, it's hard to tell how many avalanches have occurred on these surface hoar layers, or how many of them were just simple storm or wind slabs. Where they've been found, we did find this layer in Acidophilus. They've produced test results that indicate they are capable of producing avalanches. Present wind and storm slabs. Avalanche Canada is calling it a storm slab. There was a lot of wind that came in with this last storm. It has been windy, so pick your poison. They're kind of the same thing. It's basically the snow from the last 7 days with wind, so about 50 to 80 centimeters, that sits on the December 29th surface hoar. I've also been finding a layer of stellars there. So stellars are those big crystals that you'd see, like they're the picturesque crystals that fall from the sky, and they have a bunch of arms and branches. Beautiful, but they can act as weak layers, and we have been seeing those pop up in our test results. So the major wind event was on January 2nd. That's a photo of the top of Acidophilus, and it was honking up there, 80K an hour from the south. They created wind slabs up to 40 centimeters deep that were reactive, natural, and to human triggering. So here's a profile that we dug from Acidophilus. This is on January 2nd. So the snowpack is a little bit deeper than it was in this photo. It's on a north aspect at 2,050 meters. So basically what you have here on this axis going horizontally, you have your hardness. So this is how hard the snow is. So the further over to this side of the column you go, the harder the snow is. So this is a crust. It comes all the way over. That's a really hard layer. And then at the bottom, we have another crust sitting here. So this is probably those November crusts. But these are the two, this is the crust. And then when you have weak layers, the weak layers go over to the right. So here we have that, this is the December 13th surface hoar. And what we look for in these pits is you look for hard snow over soft snow. So here, there is that, what we call a slab. Right there you have about 40 centimeters of pencil snow over top of a surface hoar layer in here, and it's sitting on facets and a crust, which isn't a great recipe going on. And then just above it, at 60 centimeters below the surface, is another surface hoar layer. And again, now these are probably another 20 to 30 centimeters buried deeper now. And we actually had an extended column test which produced a likely propagation result down 60 centimeters in this test location on surface hoar that was 6 millimeters in size, and it was actually easy. So the extended column test failed on our wrist tap on the third one, down 60. And our AST2 group, they decided not to ski the slope. Probably a good call, given that there was that result sitting on that crust. And Acidophilus is kind of a bit of a highway these days, so just be aware. I've been finding a lot of surface hoar at the top of Acidophilus lately. It's a bit of a surface hoar farm. Then you get the winds. There's been a bunch of incidents there over the years. So heads up on Acidophilus with the surface hoar. And then we see down, it's kind of trailing down, and see how it gets a little bit less stiff at the bottom. These are those facets that are going on. So this is the weak sugary snow at the base of the snowpack. Here's a profile from the Roslyn Range, January 5th, 2021 at 2,000 meters. Thank you, Garrett, for this one. And last time I made a joke about making the Roslyn snowpack great again and borrowing from Donald Trump, and then he threatened to sue me, so I can't say that anymore. So I'm just gonna say, yeah, Roslyn, I'm sorry about this. It's tough out there. The snowpack is problematic in Roslyn. And what we have here is you can see these weak layers that are sitting in the snowpack. And Morgan is going to talk about some results that she had there in a little bit. But then you have, this is probably the December 8th crust here. And look at how weak that snow is underneath that crust. That is extremely weak snow. Going down to the bottom of the snowpack. So when you see this, you don't like it, because when we're getting big storms, this will add up, add weight, and if that crust fails, you've got nothing underneath it to support it. There's also a surface hoar layer down 50 centimeters that has been causing problems, and Morgan will talk about that as well. But the snowpack in Roslyn, you can see it's not as deep. It's 140. It's a lot more faceted. It's a lot weaker than what's going on in the Nelson Range and further north. And then we have Caslow New Denver Pass. So this is from Connor Hurley at Arctos Guides. Thanks, Connor, for your min report here. And he's just kind of taken a photo and sketched it out. We've got the December 30th surface hoar down here, December 25th surface hoar, and then the December 21st layer. This is actually pretty cool. The snowpack depth here, he's at only 1,600 meters here, but he actually got 185 centimeters snowpack depth. So when you go up there to Caslow New Denver Pass, quite a bit more snow, but he definitely found those two surface hoar layers there. And then he ended up getting moderate resistant shears down on these surface hoar layers. And he got a compression test, resistant planer down 30 and down 40 on surface ore. Both the layers were 3 millimeters in size. And he says there's 4 finger to 1 finger. That's the stiffness. So 1 finger is semi-stiff snow. Overlies these December surface ore layers. And he's saying they're 3 to 4 millimeters in size. And then he found the 13th surface ore there. So that's our problematic layer, December 13th. It was down 85 centimeters. So that is right within prime human triggering, is 85 centimeters. Surface ore loves to react at between 60 and 80 centimeters. And then he says the December 8th rain crust down at 95 centimeters and 2 millimeter facets below that. So thanks for that, Connor. That was on January 3rd. Hummingbird Pass. So now we're going to get into our avalanches that were going on. I was out on the 3rd of January at Hummingbird, and somebody actually reported this on the Min report, which was great. Here is the photo of it, and then there's the photo I got from above. This is a size 1.5 on the east face of Hummingbird Pass. It's at about 1,750 meters. Now the problem with Hummingbird Pass is it's a giant terrain trap, and it's basically a highway that people move through. So just so everybody knows, you know, there's tons of people moving through there. Avalanches do roll through Hummingbird Pass, and there was one big enough to have potentially hurt somebody in the pass on January 3rd. Probably came overnight with all of the wind and the new snow, and somebody found it. So thank you so much for that report. My screen's coming up a bit fuzzy there, but that's Dakota Kootenay. Thank you so much for that. So a couple avalanche incident summaries. So where are we getting these from? We're getting these from the Min reports on Avalanche Canada's site, which is awesome. There's so many people reporting, it's great. And we've got a few incident summaries to go over. So if you go on the Avalanche Canada map and you happen to see a dot with a red thing on it, the red thing indicates that there is an avalanche associated or incident with that report going on. And the first one we have from Baz Guillermo, interesting name. But thank you so much for this report. This was at Buzz's Ridge at Kootenay Pass. He said it was on a convex slope, and says the snowpack was average there. And we'll get into what he's talking about here, which is the first skier dropped in and after a few turns pulled off to the left because the snow was slabby and not soft. So these guys are obviously pretty savvy backcountry skiers. They know what's going on because they dropped in, they felt the snow was stiff, and they were like, ooh, that doesn't feel good because that's a slab. And then they decided that they're kind of going to pull off. And at that point, he saw cracking and remotely triggered a size 2. So remotely triggering is when you trigger an avalanche away from you. So that layer fails, and then it travels away from you, and the avalanche doesn't come directly right off of your skis, but it's a ways away from you. And the crown was approximately 100 feet across, which is 30 meters, and 50 centimeters at the deepest point. It ran to the bottom of the slope, so 200 meters. Pretty decent size slide, definitely a size 2, big enough to bury, injure, or kill you. That's the definition with that. And cracking continued to the skier's right below the skier's seed pick, but it didn't slide. So I think that's kind of down here. We've got more cracking as well, and you can see more slab there, more slab off of here. Pretty sizable slide that went on. Red line indicates the ski line, so he was skiing right through here, and X is where we assume we triggered happened. A thin spot over some rocks. So the thin spot is the trigger point of where the person was able to penetrate the slab and hit the weak layer and cause the avalanche. Remote trigger to a convexity nearby, and everyone is safe. Great report, guys. Thank you so much. Excellent detail. Love the photos in there as well. Super helpful to everyone. Then we have 2 remotely triggered avalanches in the Roslyn Range from Mount Plumin. So here is avalanche number 1, and we're going to bring Morgan up here, and she's going to talk about it. And Morgan, why don't you just, we'll pass this off. I'll just leave it here, and then you can tell me when, and I will switch the...
You can be pointer man.
Yeah, I will switch and point for you.
Awesome. So I actually work up in Meadow Creek, which is where I've mostly been. So when I returned home to Roslyn, which is where I now live, I decided that maybe I should go dig in the snow because it's quite different in Meadow Creek. As we saw by the Caslow profile, there's a lot more snow up there than there is in Roslyn. And so my partner, Mike Wigley, and I decided to go up and do some digging. And as we were digging a snow pit, which we'll show you the results of, we had 2 people come up to us and tell us that they had just triggered a slide from above us. And not directly, pretty much the slope directly to the looker's left of where we were digging in the trees lower down on Mount Plumin. And as you can see in this photo, the avalanche released in some really steep, it's like 40 to 50 degree steep rocky terrain. You can see all these tiny trees. There's tons of flagging in this area. This is obviously a really common performer. And from what we heard from these 2, they had ski cut from above, and a crack had shot out, and then they had triggered about 75 meters across, going down about 25 to 50 centimeters. So, and then all of that just sliding out under the trees, and then still a ton of hang fire above. So we actually did go and try to investigate it, but we just didn't want to go too close just because there was still so much hang fire above us. And so this kind of confirmed some of the stuff that we were seeing in our pits. Is that what's next, Judson?
So here's some more incident details, but yeah, there's...
Yes, you can see the avalanche right there up in those trees. And as you're going to see from the other one that's being reported, there were 2 incidents that day on Mount Plumin.
From the CABS site as well, so thanks for posting it up on CABS and letting folks know.
Yeah, super appreciate everybody making MIN reports, everybody publishing data. It's so valuable right now with the lack of operations out there and just with so many users in the backcountry. Cannot say that enough, how awesome it is to see these reports coming in. Do you want to go to, yeah, so while we were digging, this is a little video of me and Mike, we had some mixed results on our column tests, and we had no result on our extended column test. But because of what we were seeing with that layer that's down a full meter, we wanted to see what would happen if we did a propagation saw test, which really shows the potential if a slide is going to step down, how far it's going to propagate and how much it's going to propagate out. And this video kind of speaks for itself, so I'll let you guys watch that.
Plumin, northeast aspect, 1950 meters. Going to perform a PST with Morgan Dinsdale here.
Pre-injury.
When you're ready. Oh, that didn't take much.
No, it did not take much. That was 40 centimeters into the block.
Yeah, so when we're looking at these tests, we're looking at, as I pull the blunt edge of the saw up, at what point, if the snow slides at all, does it slide? And if it propagates, does the full column propagate to the back of the block? Does it just partially propagate? So what this shows us is that even though we're getting mixed results in terms of our column tests and our extended column tests, if any of these other layers step down, and this new snow that we're getting right now in Roslyn as we speak and everywhere in the Kootenays, if this steps down, the potential for it to go a full meter deep or more, because underneath, and you'll see in the pit that we dug, there are so many facets under there. Roslyn really has a pretty rotten snowpack right now. The potential for massive avalanches is really growing in the Roslyn range. Is the pit next one? Yeah, so you can kind of see down a meter, you can see that crust, you can see Roslyn's got a couple of crusts going on in there, and you can see underneath that crust is just a ton of facets. And we also are seeing on top of this crust that's a meter down, we're seeing surface hoar size 4 to 10. So still seeing quite a bit of surface hoar in there, more than I actually expected to see. And And yeah, just after that propagation saw test, just really showing the potential for something big to go, if it does go, especially in steep, rocky terrain. Okay, I'll pass this back to you, Judson. I'll leave this here. Don't mind me.
So just quick note with crusts as well. What the problem is when crusts can have avalanches under them. That can occur. It's not as common though as when there's a layer on the crust. So this is the problem with the December 8th and 13th layers. There's a problem on top of the crust. And so what Morgan did there with her saw was she ran it through the weak layer on top of the crust, and that's what broke. And so these avalanches actually, what they're happening on is probably this surface hoar layer that's up here. And the concern is that you trigger, well, an avalanche on any of these layers could kill you, but the real danger out there is we set off one of these and then it steps down and slides on one of the crusts. That's where you're really going to see the bigger avalanches occurring. So now we have avalanche number 2, submitted by Chess Sterling. Really loving these names out here. Everybody's got awesome names. Chess Sterling went up Mount Plumen to collect some obs and remote triggered a size 2 avalanche. So Chess was saying that was down 50 centimeters. It was 20 meters wide, but ran 150 centimeters, remotely triggered. And remote triggered distance from 200 meters. I'm curious if Chess is out there. I would love you to message me to let me know if that was 200 meters away from the avalanche or if the avalanche ran 200 meters distance. It does indicate it ran 150, but a 200 meter propagation of a remote avalanche is quite significant. That would mean that the layer has potential to fracture at least 200 meters. And I would say then probably more. That's quite a wide propagation for a avalanche of 50 centimeters deep. So it'd have to be either facets, which he said, or surface hoar. And they noted that there was a crust near the weak layer and cross-loaded is what they said on an open slope at tree line. And this is a different aspect to the one that Morgan was on. This is on southeast and Morgan was actually on the north. And here's a photo of it. Awesome photo. I also want to know what type of glasses you're wearing to get that photo. It's like, are those coming out of goggles? Because I want them. Just because it makes you look like a cyborg of some kind, and I would love that. Yeah, so yeah, excellent post here as well. And I just want to throw out now like a big thanks to a few community members. Al Kessler for an excellent extended column test video share out there. Thanks so much for that. Mike Packham for great min reports in the Roslyn range as well. Garrett Lindquist for profiles in Roslyn that helped me understand the snowpack there. Arctos Guides for a great report from Caslo, New Denver. All the info in the min reports that everybody's sending out there is awesome. Couldn't take all of it. I just had to use a select few here. And I just want to thank the community. I want to thank Kath Peone for helping me out so much with this presentation. We were at it quite a bit today and wouldn't be here without her help as well. And if you like what you see here, you like this type of information, check out our Snow Science 101 course that's going on January 10th. We have room on that one and on the February 6th one as well. One day where we show you how to get relevant obs. We don't spend the whole day buried in a pit. We teach you how to go and get relevant observations so that you can quickly work on your snowpack assessment skills. And then we have spots on our AST2 course, which I use that same theory. My AST2 courses aren't spent standing around in pits. We teach you how to get relevant obs quickly and build them throughout the day. And we have spots, we only have one spot left on our January 14th, and we only have 2 spots left on our split board specific course that's going on. So if you're a split boarder, you want to get out there with Jeremy Burse, we have 2 spots left on that one. And almost all of our courses have sold out so far. So I recommend if you want to do it, now is the time to sign up. Don't wait because they are going and disappearing quick. Now I'm gonna pass it over to Mike Wigley, who's gonna come on in here, and Wiggles is gonna talk about his giant pack. He is a giant man, so he can carry a giant pack.
Cool. Hopefully you guys can all see me. I'm a very giant man, as Judson just said. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a breakdown of when the poop hits the fan. You know, sometimes we're always concerned with avalanches and snowpack, but sometimes injuries can come near and far. I've dealt with incidents where people have cut their hands open with their own equipment, and with knives. I've broken my own ribs from a transceiver. I've had to do 2 heli evacs actually within 5 days. And so this is kind of like a breakdown of kind of like the extra stuff I've learned, what to bring, and you don't need to one person bring all this. Like, it can be broken down to many things, but I'll kind of talk about it as I go. So first, we'll kind of start with like the top of the bag here. And since I'm more into with the guiding aspect, this is just what I carry in the top of my bag. It's always good to have your notebook, taking notes. You see avalanches, you see any kind of signs just while you're out there. Always good to take notes. Radio, great communication device for within your group and external if you need to contact someone within an emergency.
I'll do a shout out to Whitewater. Anyone who skis at Whitewater, I highly recommend getting radios. Getting BCA radios. There's no cell service up there, and to be able to communicate with everyone is really key, even if you're skiing inbounds. So I highly recommend radios at Whitewater.
And as well, internally with your group, it's always good to actually rock the BCA radios as well. Great to have communication with everyone in your group, because within the tree skiing, you can easily get off track from one another and separated, and so it's really good just to, instead of shouting where your buddy is, just quickly get on the radio and see what's up. You don't need to carry 2 pairs of sunglasses, but sometimes it can be a bummer when one of your friends forgets their sunglasses and it's really blinding out there. You don't want to get snow blindness. So actually, this is a pair of glacier shades, and then this is a normal pair of cool shades. Always good to have a watch out there. You can rock just like a basic one with having the time, or have a fancy one that has like GPS and be able to track where you're going. And always good to know what elevation you are too. And good old fancy inReach. And so with the inReach, it's really great with having the 2-way communication, being able to talk outside a source and be able to relay what you might need for a rescue. And really, if you don't know what to do, just hit the SOS. There's also another device too, which is the Spot, which I'll quickly grab here. Spot device is also another great tool to use. And then just with these times as well, I carry just with a pair of gloves in here, face mask, and mouth respirator just in case, you know, keep it nice and COVID friendly. So that's just like my quick items to just kind of access within the top of my pack. Highly always recommend to wear a helmet in the backcountry. Very crucial item to have. Now inside the pack. And now we, of course, always have a transceiver. That's the one's an easy plug. Easy one not to forget. And then I'll just have the basics as well in the front of my bag. If you guys cannot see. So I got, of course, the shovel handle, my probe. Hey, guess what? It's all blue too. Who would have thunk? I'm color coordinated. And always good to have your saw as well and be able to cut tree limbs in case you need to make a fire. I carry my goggles and a buff. That's always good for extra warmth, face protection. And it keeps your goggles nice and protected. Skins. My set of like touring gloves I wear all the time. I carry, this is like my mid layer for like my insulation jacket. I'm saying mine just because I'll say at the very end. I carry two. I carry a large water bottle, 1/2 liter. And also carry a small little steel cup, so in case I do need to melt water in the backcountry, I have this. I have this to use, and it stores perfectly in your water bottle.